Facts about money that will blow your mind. There are 1,700 new millionaires in America every day. There are already 25 million people in the United States that are millionaires today. This means that 7.5% of the United States is a millionaire. Singapore has the world's highest percentage of millionaires in their country, with almost 20% of the entire country having more than $1 million US. Annual supply of water bottles can cost up to $200 a year, while tap water will only cost you 33 cents. King Charles made $34 million in rent income last year. Walt Disney fired the creator of Goofy because he tried to start a union. Money laundering wasn't a crime in the United States until 1986. Due to how much money they generate, 42 buildings in New York City have their own zip code. When we're tempted to buy something, thinking about how many hours it's going to take to afford that thing usually helps us stop.
If you are a family influencer or post your child on social media, here are a few things you should never do in my own opinion. Number 1, might be common sense, but never post your child in a bathing suit. It's disgusting how many of these Instagram accounts exist that just solely share these types of photos and even have their own groups and communities, so just don't. Number 2, having your very young child's own Instagram page. For example, the LeBrant family. They have an Instagram account for each of their very young children, and just because it's managed by mom and dad does not mean it stops thousands of sick individuals from following the accounts and using their photos for exploitation. Number 3, AI generated photos are becoming more and more realistic, so think about that before you post a picture of your child eating, crying, or honestly doing anything. When it comes to this type of inappropriate content, people will do anything to get a photo. Honestly, as someone who has talked about true crime stories for over 3 years, I highly suggest to never post your kid on social media. If you have other tips, please comment that down below.
Let's talk about this brave man whose life was taken while he tried to protect his family at the Trump campaign rally. On July 13th, 50-year-old Corey Comprador, his wife, and 2 daughters attended the rally in Pennsylvania where Trump was speaking. The family sat on the stand right behind Trump when less than 10 minutes into the speech, the shooting began, and while Trump was hit in the right ear, 3 other people were also hit. These are 2 of the 3 victims, David Dutch and James Copenhaver. They were in critical condition but are expected to recover. Unfortunately, 50-year-old Corey did lose his life while he tried to protect his family. His wife Helen and his 2 daughters said that he died a hero, and the last words that he said to them was to get down before he threw them to the floor and covered them. Corey worked as a project and tooling engineer and was a firefighter of the Buffalo Township Volunteer Fire Company. After this tragic and sad incident, over $4.7 million has been donated to the victims, with Elon Musk donating $100,000 as well as Dana White and Kid Rock.
These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. Sometimes you laugh, talk, and cry in sleep. It's often a spirit sitting beside you in bed. You are more likely to be bitten by someone in New York than to be bitten by a shark. A human head remains conscious for 20 seconds after being decapitated. If you search up this number on Google, you'll find people with their heads in fridges. Gelatin is made out of bones. That's right. The melted marshmallow in your hot chocolate is melted animal bone. It's good stuff. You have no way of really knowing if everyone experiences reality and consciousness the same way you do. If a panda finds a fresh carcass, they'll eat it. And last but not least, your phone is likely spying on you right now as you're watching this. Yeah, there's a lot more. Like for part 8.
I wouldn't
went swimming with sharks nearly ended up in the hospital, and not for any reason you'd think. Shout out to Nat Geo for sponsoring this video. I'm gonna change the way you look at sharks in less than 60 seconds. Let's get it. The author of Jaws, Peter Benchley, not only did he regret writing the book because of all the bad PR to sharks, he would dedicate the rest of his life to shark conservation. If Jaws were written today, the shark would be the victim. The Greenland shark is a slow burn glacier guppy that can not only live for up to 400 years, they don't hit baby making age until 150. 150, dude, and still young. Now there's more than 500 types of sharks, so it's easy to miss one, like the chain cat shark, which happens to glow in the dark that's biofluorescence. The epaulet is a shark that disrespects the natural order by walking, using pelvic and pectoral fins to move around during low tide. Sharks use a type of camouflage called countershading, meaning if you're above them, they blend into the dark abyss, but if you're below them, their light underbelly gets lost in the light of the sky. When you've been around longer than trees, nature gives you perks like that's Anthony Mackie. It is, and he and Ross Edgley and many more will be a part of National Geographic Shark Fest airing on Disney Plus and Hulu. Check it out if you're ready to see sharks be anything but the bad guy. Oh, that's right. Well, I wasn't lying. The sharks are fine, but the ocean slammed me against the bars of the cage like it owed me money. So, moral of the story, I'm not afraid of sharks, just the ocean around it.
This is why you should never take walks alone at night. In 2007, a girl was on a late night walk when she looked at the end of the road and saw the silhouette of a man moving around very strangely. It was like he was doing the waltz, but he was moving towards her, so she was sketched out, crossed the road, and went the other way. After a couple minutes, she turned around to see what he was doing, and he was right across the street from her, now staring up into the sky with a huge grin on his face. Now totally creeped out, she turns around and walks about a half block before checking again, and to her horror, he's now crouched down right behind her. But luckily, he stands up, turns around, and kind of hobbles away. And then she notices something. The man had turned around and was now sprinting directly towards her. She runs to safety and now just hopes she never has to see that smiling man again.
These are scary facts about popular childhood movies, part 1. Up first, Claire Blandick, who played Auntie M in The Wizard of Oz, suffered from arthritis that was so painful that she committed suicide at the age of 85. She did her hair and makeup one final time and put on a nice dress before overdosing on sleeping pills. She then left a note that said, "I am now about to make the great adventure. I cannot endure this agonizing pain any longer. It's all over my body. I pray the Lord my soul to take. Amen." Next up, in the movie The Adventures of Milo and Otis, it's been reported that upwards of 20 cats were killed during the filming of the movie. There's a lot of speculation behind this because the film somehow got the approval of the American Humane Society, despite not having their officers present during filming.
These are some extremely unsettling facts, and I found all of these on Reddit. Do you remember the movie A Land Before Time? Well, if you do, of course you remember this loving character, Ducky. Ducky was just adorable, that's literally it. But the backstory of the voice actor that plays Ducky is absolutely terrifying. The voice actor who played Ducky was actually killed by her extremely abusive father. During 9/11, we all know that a lot of emergency workers actually gave their lives trying to save people, but there was also a lot of dogs that did the same thing. So these dogs were going around trying to rescue people, but all they were finding were dead corpses. And this literally made the dogs depressed. So seeing this as a solution, a lot of the police officers and firefighters would bury themselves in rubble just so that the dogs would be able to find them and be able to rescue someone. Rattlesnakes are actually evolving to not have a rattle anymore. If they were to do this, they would become one of the more deadly snakes on Earth because they would lose the one thing that let us know where they are. So if you live in an area where there's a lot of rattlesnakes, I'd be careful because one could be lurking around and you won't even know anymore. But I'm sorry for even making you think about that, but that's why.
This is why you should be scared of Ouija boards. A former Reddit user said that he used a Ouija board with results and let something into his home. He said that he has also been physically assaulted by this entity. He said that it started out with the feeling that he was being watched, doors closing and footsteps on the hardwood floor when he was home alone. All of this slowly progressed into being kept awake by something shaking the bed and pulling off the covers. He said that sometimes he even heard whispers of his name. The board would disappear for days on end and then show up in places that he never even put it. He became obsessed with it. Things got even worse though. He said that he began to see a black mass in the corner of the room and the silhouette of a man watching him from the doorway. One night, the paranormal activity escalated into a full-blown attack. He said that he had his hair pulled, fingers pricked, and that he was choked while being held down in bed. During the attack, he claims that this thing whispered into his ear in what could have only been Latin. After this event, he finally decided to have his house blessed, and fortunately, this entity hasn't shown back up. He said that he will never again play with one of those boards.
This is the case of the girl that vanished into thin air. Her name is Yuki Onishi. On April 29th of 2005, 5-year-old Yuki was out celebrating Greenery Day with her mother. It's a national holiday in Japan, and what they do is they go out, they celebrate nature, and they collect bamboo shoots. So Yuki, her mom, and 60 other people were out doing this. Yuki was so excited that she found her first bamboo shoot, she showed her mother, and then she ran off to find more. That's when she disappeared and was never seen from again. When they realized that she was nowhere to be found, they actually brought in search dogs and the police. This is where it gets really strange. The dogs followed her scent to the middle of the forest and then just stopped. The scent stopped in the middle of the forest as if she had just disappeared into thin air from that spot. To this day, she has never been found and no one knows what happened. If you want to hear some theories, come back for part 2.
Do you remember this horror game that no longer exists? Let's talk about a terrifying horror experience that was taken off the web. Hotel 626. More obscure horror games right here. This game is an example of lost media and the images are a little blurry, so bear with me. Hotel 626 is a horror game that was actually made by Doritos for a marketing campaign. You go through a series of disturbing events that take place inside of a hotel while you try to escape. But the name of the game actually means more than you might think. The 626 in the game's title stands for the fact that this game was only playable between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. every day, meaning you had to play this game at night. There was no other choice. Now, I did some research and there really is no way to play this game today. Luckily though, footage does still exist on YouTube, so at least we have that. Hotel 626 actually made enough of an impact that it received a sequel called Asylum 626, but we'll talk about that later.
Interesting people you've never heard of. This man attempted to dribble a soccer ball 10,000 miles from Seattle to Brazil, but unfortunately lost his life after being hit by a pickup truck only 250 miles in. Disney co-founder Roy Disney went to Disneyland every single week with his grandchildren, greeting employees by name and picking up trash to teach them the lesson that nobody is too good to pick up trash. This woman sat at a table in a New York museum for 736 hours over 3 months, allowing anybody to come up and sit across from her and make eye contact with no speaking. This French woman was imprisoned by her family for 25 years in the late 1800s without seeing any sunlight. This man smashed the door of a cupcake store, sat for 15 minutes and thought about what he did, cleaned up his mess in regret, and then stole 6 cupcakes. The store owner saw everything on camera. Instead of pressing charges, he created a signature cupcake after him.
I want to go ahead and I want to discuss this Instagram story and what makes this diabolically creepy. So I'm not going to give the name. I blocked everything out because clearly they want to remain anonymous. Context is that somebody clearly broke into their old school. I don't know if it was their middle school, high school, whatever it was. And they posted this to their story, but pretty soon after, people started commenting about what they see in the background. Zoom in just a little bit, you would see that this person was not alone in that classroom. But before we take a deeper look at that photo, a huge thank you to Spyfly for bringing you this story. If you want to look up something about somebody, you go to Spyfly. How to become this one-stop shop where you can do background reports, you can look at arrest records, you can even do reverse phone lookup. Spyfly.com is going to be the place to do it. You can check the link in my bio for more details. So back to this photo. I don't know if you can see this, but there is definitely somebody crouching in the background of this classroom. And if you still doubt me, I zoomed in and enhanced the picture for you.
Disturbing facts that may ruin your day. This woman passed away in her home while watching TV and was not discovered for 3 years. Girls at a nearby camp danced in the falling white ash of the atomic trinity test when it was happening. 10 out of 12 of the girls that danced in the ash passed away before the age of 40. This man donated $100,000 to UCLA to bypass a queue for a liver transplant. 186 people in the Los Angeles area passed away waiting for this same surgery. This woman survived after her parachute failed to deploy just days after surviving a gas leak at her house. Both events were found to be intentional plots carried out by her husband. Hitler had a romantic obsession with his teenage half-niece. All of the members of your group chat will eventually pass away, leaving the group to just exist forever. We are one convincing deep fake away from a global catastrophe.
And curtain number 1 is correct. Wait. You don't remember what she looks like?
September 25th, 1981, something very strange took place up in the Smoky Mountains. This is a picture of Pauline Melton, and it would end up being one of the last known photos of her. Because while Pauline was up there, she was with 2 hiking companions. They described that she all of a sudden, without explanation, just started to rapidly speed up. They even described that they called out to her and they were asking, "Pauline, where are you going? Pauline." She never answered, she never looked back until she crossed over a hill. Since that exact moment, Pauline was never seen again. And to this day, they still have no idea where she went and why she did it.
Terrifying True Facts That Will Keep You Up at Night, Part 2. Most people would consider ducklings to be relatively harmless and innocent creatures, but they can be more sinister than you might realize. When a group of ducklings starts to feel overcrowded, aggravated, or even just bored sometimes, they will often turn to cannibalism to solve their problems for them. This is a characteristic that they share with other animals we tend to regard as being cute, such as chickens and bunny rabbits. And speaking of cute, let's talk about babies. Up until the mid-1980s, doctors would routinely operate on infants without the use of anesthetics. This is because it was thought that babies couldn't experience pain. Also in the 1980s, CNN pre-recorded an ominous video meant to be published in the event of an end-of-the-world scenario. Comment if you think that video will be published during your lifetime, and follow for more.
Creepy people who were caught on camera PT.1.
Oh my gosh, that was terrific. Do you girls like to read? Do any of you like to read? No. No?
I'm inserting! I'm dead. I'm done. Yeah, but you're dead. Yeah, you keep going. Alright, that's it.
Frostbite. You'll keep it for the rest of your life.
I recorded it, so you're good. Alright, so like, can we leave? Like, this loose?
Creepiest home camera of footage PT.3.
This priest tied himself to 1,000 colorful helium balloons and then was found in the ocean months later. On April 20th, 2008, 41-year-old Father Adiller DeCarli wanted to raise money to build a chapel in his hometown, so he chose to tie himself up to 1,000 helium balloons and float over the ocean. He also hoped to break the previous 19-hour record, but unfortunately, things ended tragically. On the morning of April 20th, Father Adiller was fully repaired to take off, and for safety reasons, he put on a helmet, waterproof coveralls, and an aluminum thermal flight suit, as well as a GPS tracker and a radio to communicate with people on the ground. Only a few hours after taking off, despite the radio and GPS tracker, Father Adiller disappeared and could not be located. The last thing that he said through the radio was that he was losing height and was going to land in the ocean. Search and rescue teams were immediately dispatched, and after 2 days, they found the colorful balloons in the sea off Brazil's southeast coast, but Father Adiller was not there. Then, a few months later, a body was found in the ocean, which turned out to be him. It was reported that the priest had reached an altitude of 20,000 feet and then was blown off course by the strong winds, causing his tragic death.
So with the amount of people that pass away in hospitals, it's no surprise that they're reportedly full of a lot of paranormal activity. Some people even say that when there are many deaths occurring in a certain area, portals are opened up. And as these souls exit this world, other things, entities, creep in. A nurse who wants to remain anonymous said that she used to work in a skilled nursing facility. She was usually assigned the Alzheimer's ward. One night, she was in the linen room stocking her cart and she heard someone shuffle up behind her. Then, she said she felt a hand on her shoulder. She turned around and there was no one else in the room. A female patient started to complain that there was a man coming into her room late at night. Anonymous said that she was in the Alzheimer's ward, so she didn't think much of it. To reassure the patient, she told her that she would come check on her throughout the night. She complained of this man every night for 2 more weeks. The nurse finally asked her to describe him, and the patient said, "He's real handsome, and he wears a black suit. Oh, and he's right behind you now, honey." The nurse said that this freaked her the F out. Of course, there was no one behind her. The patient died the next night in her sleep. So these nurses and doctors really do have a lot of great supernatural stories, and I don't know what to think about that one, because she was, like she said, in an Alzheimer's ward, and Alzheimer's patients can hallucinate. But the nurse did say that when she heard someone shuffle up behind her, she also felt a hand on her shoulder. And I don't know, guys, this story is pretty creepy. The patient described the man as being in all black, yet very handsome. I know that the Grim Reaper is conventionally described as being in like a hooded cloak, but could this have been the Grim Reaper? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments.
Imagine getting this mad because your bubble tea was made wrong. Police were called to this bubble tea place after this grown man had a meltdown because his bubble tea tasted too bitter. He got so mad that he threatened to throw the drink at the worker and said some very offensive stuff in Korean. Then he tried to force the worker to drink the bubble tea that he just finished putting in his mouth.
You know the reason why I'm here. You know, I do. And I explained. It was so bitter to drink. I explained. And could you check this? Could you try this? I told her. But she rejected.
Hey, first off, there's no reason to act like this over a drink. You're a grown man.
This is the worker, and she tried to find a solution by offering to make him a new drink or give him a refund, but this man was so mad. He didn't want any of that. He just wanted to fight. The workers ended up calling the police because this man was getting pretty aggressive, and when the police arrived and heard both stories, they were upset because this man was acting like a baby over a drink. Then this man called his daughter so that she can better explain the situation because there was a language barrier, and you would think that she had more common sense, but it seems that common sense does not run in this family because she was blaming the workers for everything.
There's bigger things in life to worry about than a damn drink that's bitter or not.
I know, sir, you're really discounting.
Then you go to another location. If I go to a restaurant and they offend me, I'm just gonna not gonna bring my business there.
I know, that's how you handle your problem. And this is
but you can't come into public and then cause a disturbance.
Sir, I understand. I understand what you're saying, and I understand that he was offended. You know, he may seem like really offensive, and you apologize. Okay, but when someone is really worked up, and
there's no de-escalation of the problem because they are not apologizing for this service, then we only get really upset.
Okay, but he's got to be in charge of his own emotions.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't like the drink, then take the refund and don't come back. It's simple. It's so frustrating to see the entitlement and lack of awareness of these people. I felt so bad for this worker. She broke down in tears and apologized to this man so many times, but he wasn't satisfied and just wanted to continue to fight. It's so frustrating to see this, especially because she's working at a bubble tea place. She probably gets paid minimum wage and she has to deal with people like this.